Welcome to Practical Business Technology, where we keep you in the know about technology's impact on business. Today's show is sponsored by the Maricopa County Bar Association, and our host is Dave Kinsey, author and owner of Total Networks. Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Dave.
And today we are starting a 4-part series on ransomware.
Oh yeah, it's in the news and we got a lot to talk about.
So today we're going to talk about the origins of ransomware. And in future episodes we'll walk through how it works.
Yeah, today we're gonna talk about the origins of ransomware and its evolution through today. Sort of, how did we get here? Because I think there's a saying that those that don't know the past are condemned to repeat the future. All right, so we're going all in on the history and the evolution and all that, so you can really understand it. Then once again, to truly understand it, most people don't understand the mechanics of how do these payments happen. How does the ransomware get on there? What does it do? How does the money get there? All that stuff. There's a lot of details, and it's worth understanding that as well. The third episode is going to be on protecting yourself. What are the things, now that you know how it works and how the whole mechanics works, what the heck can you do to protect yourself? And then the fourth one is really going to be a public policy discussion on, as a society, this is a kind of a scourge on society, and there are different ways to tackle this, none of which of what I see us doing is effective, and I have some thoughts on what things actually could be effective, and we're going to talk about that. So
without further ado, Dave, when did ransomware start?
Okay, well, your people are going to have different opinions on this. I'm going to give you my opinion of how this all started. I think this started in 1988 is really when this started. At least, the concept of it and the foundations for it.
I think I was using a typewriter back then.
Yeah, a lot of us were, right? So yeah, I remember I had one of those. I had a typewriter that you could press the. It had whiteout.
The whiteout button. That was the coolest invention ever.
It was cool. Although I had a computer too. I had computers. But anyway, okay, 1988, and it goes back to a gentleman named Tim May, who wrote a thing called the Anarchist Manifesto. It laid the groundwork for this movement called crypto anarchy. Yeah, that was basically he wrote this manifesto, and then he presented it to what he called was a group of like-minded crypto anarchists, or like-minded people that are crypto anarchists at a convention.
Okay, so he wrote this manifesto. How did that turn into ransomware?
Okay, well, in this manifesto, which he talked about how there was this new vision for the world. This world of anarchy, saying that basically governments are his position were that governments are the problem, and what we need is anarchy. It's a sort of structured version of anarchy. It's not completely chaos anarchy, but it's anarchy still. And in this vision, he talked about that there's going to be all sorts of problems from this, but that won't stop this anarchy. We need this anarchy. He says there's going to be undesirable things that are going to happen about this. There's going to be ransoms and all sorts of evil things that are bad things that are going to come from it, but that on the whole it's worth it to have anarchy.
Okay.
So that was his vision.
So then what was the next stage?
Well, supposedly our very first attempt at ransomware happened a year later. There was a guy by the name of Joseph Pop. We know his name. He was not very successful at ransomware. He distributed floppy disks. Remember those?
Yes, I do. They were about 5 by 5.
Those are the bigger. It was 5 1/4. There was, I think it might have had them on 3 1/4 or 3.5 inch.
So this might have been on the smaller ones?
I don't know which one, but at any rate, it was on floppy disks, and he distributed this to all these different people. And then there was a a thing saying, pay me this money. Well, he was instantly caught and put in, in jail. He was not successful to think that he would get away with this or whatnot. He didn't. Eventually, though, part of this whole vision of crypto anarchy was built on the idea of digital money, cryptocurrency. Crypto meaning hidden. So this idea of hidden money that would be anonymous but electronically transmitted. And so that's what made ransomware practical. And so you had Bitcoin come on the scene, and after Bitcoin became a thing.
Well, the internet helps too.
Well,
Back
the internet
in
helps.
1988, not everyone was using the internet.
No, the internet existed then.
I know, but not everybody was using it like they are today.
Not very many people were using it. Yeah, not like today. So all this evolved, and then now we have cryptocurrency, and so now ransomware is practical. The idea of cryptocurrency is there's no government behind it, and everyone can be anonymous. Now, nothing is perfectly anonymous, but if you're very skilled at it, you can be very anonymous. And so this allowed ransomware to happen. And so you have things like CryptoLocker was one of the first ones out there that people know of. And then they had variants of that like CryptoWall and Locky. And then there was a real big one called Wannacry.
So what was Wannacry?
Wannacry, well, okay, it was very successful. It started with a bad actor or some organization or person that pilfered a tool created by the NSA, the National Security Agency of the United States, that the spies that want to break into computer systems. Well, they had a tool that was very effective at breaking into computer systems. Well, first they pilfered that, and then they used that to help distribute this ransomware. And it went all around the world. It shut down hospitals. It shut down cities. It was bad news, and businesses, and people, just all sorts of stuff.
So do you think the goal for ransomware is to shut down businesses, or is it just really a financial transaction that they're just trying to get money?
Well, it's debatable. I can't pretend to know the mind. I mean, money, you would think, is certainly part of it. I think I have a personal opinion that part of it is also in the mind of people there. It's sort of promoting cryptocurrency. It's forcing users to pay attention to cryptocurrency and have some liquidity in it. People buying Bitcoin under duress, getting Bitcoin in the news. But there's a financial reason for it as well.
Well, and I guess it depends on their political views too, or, why does any terrorist do what they do?
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So, all right. So this continued to be out there, and ransomware just has continued to proliferate.
Well, it's a multi-billion-dollar business today, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, and a lot of it, you've got organizations that, crime organizations that do this. You even having kind of an affiliate model where people will create the software and get a cut of it, by having other bad actors actually get this thing to infect people, and then they want to, get a cut of the money. It's been very successful, and it's at a point now where, paying the ransom is expected. I mean, you have cyber security insurance, and your cyber insurer is just going to pay the ransom.
Well, I was listening to a news report by the New York Times recently where they talked about how even though we don't want to pay the ransom because we're paying terrorists when we do that,
yeah,
but sometimes the cost of recovering your data is more expensive than the cost of paying the ransom.
Yeah, and it's not even about recovering the data anymore. What they do is they'll in the message, they're going to also say, if you don't pay us, we're going to leak all the information that we got. And you don't know if they even have the information, if they did any exfiltration of the data or not, but insurers are just paying it. It's just sad. I literally heard, this was years ago, an FBI agent talk about how the ransomware is just so good and the hackers are so good, and it's hard to track Bitcoin. we tell people just pay the ransom. And my jaw was on the floor.
However, I do think that the technology and the investigation into this has improved, because I've heard some recent stories where the FBI has been able to recover some money or track down who did things.
It's true. And actually, in my book, I wrote a book on called The Blockchain Code. I actually walk through how you could. It's hard. There's no perfect way to trace this stuff, but I walk through how a careless bad actor could be traced, and I actually show an example of a ransomware from what looks to me like a careless bad actor, and how you might go about tracking them down. And I actually sent some of that information to an FBI agent that I knew. I got nothing back. So, whatever. At any rate, yeah, so let's fast forward to today. Why are we talking about this? Because it's in the news. Well, you have the Colonial Pipeline, where that shut down gasoline to the eastern coast of the United States for a while. $4.3 million, 75 Bitcoin, right? And then, and they just paid it. And it's my understanding they paid the ransom not even to recover the data, but I think it's just because there was a threat of releasing information that who knows even if they had it. So because they didn't apparently even use the tools to recover the data because it was so slow, they recovered from backup, or is my understanding. That's what I've heard. So they paid $4.3 million in Bitcoin. Then you follow this up by JBS is a meat distributor, $11 million in ransom, paid. So, the Colonial Pipeline that was paid to a organization supposedly called Dark Side, the JBS meat that was paid to an organization called R Evil.
So these are not just individuals; they're probably big businesses.
I don't know how big, but it's business. Yeah.
Well, it's big if they're getting 11 million.
Yeah, supposedly it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I don't know, I forget how large it is, but yeah, it's a big deal, and so.
So that's a long way from distributing a floppy disk or a thumb drive that's got some malware on it, all the way to fast forward to today, where we're having organizations that affect all Americans. It's affecting us at the gas station, it's affecting us at the grocery store.
Yeah. Now, one thing that makes me somewhat slightly encouraged. I'm really kind of depressed about all this, to be honest with you. I just, and there are things we can do about it, but this actually rose to the level where you actually had a president of the United States talk about ransomware and how they're, bad actors are going to be tracked down and prosecuted and all that. So, it's the first time I can recall that happening. And supposedly they got back, half or so of that $4.3 million of the Colonial Pipeline tracked down. Now, I didn't hear that they made any arrests of people, which makes me wonder, did Darkside, because the heat was so much on them for shutting down the east coast of the United States, did they, it gives Bitcoin certainly a pretty bad rap. Did they intentionally abandon that money, leave a trail so that, somebody can say, oh, it was traced and tracked down? I'd want to see somebody go to jail. I want to see somebody, until there's so much spin and BS around all of this stuff here.
Isn't that why it's so successful? Because they haven't been caught.
Yeah.
Unlike the guy back in 1989 that got caught.
When there was no cryptocurrency then.
Did they ever catch the Wannacry people?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
The reason this keeps happening is because it works. Why does anything like phishing or ransomware or malware, why does this keep happening? Because it works. It's successful.
Yeah, it is. So that's where we're at today, right? So basically, if you have cyber liability insurance, the insurers just roll over and pay the ransom instantaneously. It's just not even a question. They just do it.
But just a note about insurance, you need to follow the requirements that the insurance tells you to put in place.
Sure.
Well, what I'm getting at is when you get a cyber liability insurance policy and you attest to, yes, I have antivirus protection, and yes,
Sure.
I have a firewall, and yes, I have backups, and yes, I have da 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 da. You know, if you don't have those things, then you're not even going to get your insurance to help you pay the ransom.
Yeah, actually, I view this somewhat as one of a positive thing is because of this going on, insurers are asking more and more questions, and it's encouraging people to have better cyber hygiene, which is good. So, I mean, on the positive side, you can look at this as like people need to be more serious about their cybersecurity. So that's something we just need to do. We don't want these bad actors out there doing this. It's just wrong. But
Sure.
yeah,
Well, so this has been going on for many, many years since you and I were graduating from high school, and I imagine that it's going to be continuing for a lot more years to come.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how things develop over the next decade.
yeah. It's escalating. And once again, there's no. I mean, there are people that that are big into the whole cryptocurrency thing that will take offense to the suggestion that that it's all about ransomware, and it's not. I'm just saying
It's not all about ransomware.
It's not all about
but-
ransomware, but ransomware does not exist without cryptocurrency.
Correct.
Period. I mean, there's not an effective way to do it, and and there is no perfect solution on cryptocurrency. I can tell you right now, most of the regulation and stuff that we're doing, they're regulating the people that are not the bad actors. You're getting the people that are working with the Coinbases and the others and stuff like that, the casual investors, not the criminals.
So anything else about our little history lesson here that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think, because there's we've made this a 4-part series just because there's so much to go into. So just a little, once again, a precursor for our next 3 episodes. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of how the payments and the infections work, how you protect yourself, and then the public policy discussion.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.